Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 225 of The Ball is Round. My name is Andy Coronado, and tonight on the show, we're discussing CF Montreal's victory against New York City FC and Rose's FC draw against Halifax Tide FC. As you can see, I'm joined tonight by Elias. What is going on, my man? How you doing?
Uh,
You are
life,
in a good mood today.
life is
That's
good, man. It was Mother's Day. Barcelona won the Clásico. It was a phenomenal Sunday and a pretty good Saturday. So all in all, my weekend has been top notch.
hmm.
Good
I
evening, Robbie. Thank you again. A positive result to talk about. Hell yeah,
Yes,
positive Robbie.
let's get to it. Yeah, but before we get into all that good stuff, a big shout out to all moms around the world, but more specifically, those past, present, and future moms that have supported The Ball is Round throughout the years. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, mommy. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms,
Oh
to
yeah.
those the real heroes of our lives, the ones that put up with our shit. Sorry, just had to say it. but anyways, thank you so much for all the support. But yes, absolutely, Roberto. We had an excellent a positive result to talk about. Elias, we were talking about it before we
Yes.
got on, and we're like, finally, man, we can talk about a win. It's been a minute,
I literally don't
right?
remember how to talk about a win.
We've been
I forgot. It's been months.
literally since last year. We've been saying, okay, so here we go again this week. Another loss. Where did we go wrong? This time around, we can actually talk about some good stuff. But before we get into a game, Elias, there were some maybe random topics that happened during the week that we wanted to talk about. Um, CF Montreal just announced changes in their first team coaching staff. As you guys
Mhm.
might have seen, Ludovic Taillandier, who was hired in December to be part of Laurent Courtois' staff as an assistant coach and individual player training, was let go by CF Montreal. And instead, they brought in two assistants. They brought Maxime Lecomte, who was the head coach for the CF Montreal Academy U18 since September 2024, amongst other roles. This guy, Maxime, seems to have pretty much worked his way up the echelon of the academy and now is part of the first team. And since 2020, and Lorenzo Pino, which I think I might be saying his name wrong. I'm not sure, but he'll be reunited with Marco Donadel from their time at the Serie B club, a U.S. Ancona, where he occupied the post of head match analyst and technical collaborator. When I see this, obviously, I found it super weird that Tayandi was let go after such short period of time with the team. But then the two that came in, someone that comes from the academy and someone that also comes from, one clearly one of Donadell's guys, um, it kind of shows that the team is starting where the philosophy of the club is going. Yes, they've always told us that they're about development, they're about um, the development of players, sell, and all that. What'd you think when you saw this news? Again, it's not major breaking news like a firing or a hiring of a coach, but it does change up the bench a little bit. And I'll tell you something, Elias, before we get into the game. Yesterday, when they were showing the game of NYCFC, I just caught that Sauvre is no longer sitting next to Marco Donadel. It's Lorenzo Pino, the new guy that's sitting next to Marco Donadel. Might not be such a big deal. Things happen, it could be a such. But David Sauvry was always the right hand man of along the bench since Laurent Courtois was coach. What do you think of the news when you saw this, Elias?
Le Victor, I remember he was brought in as a Laurent Courtois guy, right? Him and Kobe Johnson. I think the work Kobe Johnson's done on set pieces and the big turn, positive turn that the defense has taken, probably means is what was why he's still around. But Ludovic Tandar was a guy brought in to help Laurent Courtois because they knew each other from MLS Next Pro, and they spoke the same language and they spoke the same footballing language. So I think that is the same reason why someone like Lorenzo Pino was brought in, right? They know each other, there's a familiarity. And again, on a coaching staff, sometimes if there's just notions or ideas in your head that you can't really fully explain in very specific detail, maybe it's good to have a guy that, understands what you're thinking to kind of have somebody else on the same page as you. As for Maxime Laconte, I think it's a natural progression. It's a natural promotion. Um, I think it's also important to remember that Marco Donadel is the interim coach, right? So if they're looking at hiring from within and promoting from within, it's very possible that Maxime Leconte has thrown his hat in the ring.
Mm,
And he was coach of the academy. There's a lot of academy kids within the group now, so he does have a certain level of familiarity with both a youth setup, so the club's youth setup, and also a lot of the players that are currently on the senior team. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's maybe eyeing if it does in fact stay an interim job and Marco Donadel does not get renewed or extended into a permanent position. I wouldn't be surprised if Maxime Leconte fancies himself. I think it's a good, and he's in a good position to do it right now.
yeah, absolutely, and that's definitely something you point out that it's been a minute since we don't see that natural progression going to the first team, right? So
Mhm.
it could be a very good luck or very bad luck because we've also seen coaches that have gone from the first team back to the academy, like Eduardo Sabrango did this year. But again, we'll only know over time what kind of impact they have. Um, a last little random topic that came up. Um, Mathieu Chouanière. Okay, he's no longer
Mathieu
part of
Choinière.
CF Montreal, but Mathieu Chouanière is a kind of a case right now. Okay, the reason
Mhm.
we talk about it here is because we do discuss also the Canada men's national team. Right now, Grasshopper Zurich's team right now is fighting a relegation battle, and he's
They're losing
been
a relegation battle, to be
they're
honest.
losing the relegation battle. You're absolutely right to put it that way. And at the same time, the World Cup is looming, and Mathieu Chouanière hasn't been selected to play that much for the first team. He's been coming in as a sub, and yesterday he was completely out of the squad, unless he's injured. And there hasn't been an update on that. How I don't know, man. I'm feeling like this is getting very, very questionable. A lot of people, on social media are saying like he made the wrong move. He jumped ship too quick. He should have been patient. The blame is kind of coming back to him as if saying, I think he did the right move just for him personally to test it out, to see how it went, to we don't know what's going on in Mathieu Chouanière's mind right now. Maybe he's completely enjoying the experience. Doesn't care if he doesn't play every game, but he really, really wanted this opportunity. But from far away, a lot of people are saying like he messed up, man. That's a messed up move. And I think it's I'm predicting here, but it would be his priority to continue playing for the Canada men's national team.
Yeah.
But with this kind of inconsistency with his club, it's safe to start thinking that maybe he won't be chosen for the national team as the World Cup gets closer. What do you think?
Look, um he's proven himself to be a very valuable member of the national team. I don't think JC Marsh is going to go so far as to not select him right away. He'll be back in MLS in Columbus. You know what? I honestly would not be surprised. Um it's that pipeline, man, I swear to God. But
That's La Palida, baby.
Rudy Camacho, there's a bajillion, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to start naming all the Columbus crew members that played for CF Montreal, but I genuinely think that both the club and he as an individual were put in such a bad position when the contract negotiations broke down, and Todd Bogart reported that he wants the trade, he wants the trade request or the transfer request. I think that everyone's hand was forced, right? Mathieu Choinière no longer had a say in where he went or what kind of environment he went into, and the club had to get something out of it because the contract negotiations were stalling, and you don't want to let arguably one of the most promising, graduates from your academy go on a free, right? You want to get them ready for the next stage, but you also want to make some money while you're at it too. There's a business side to this, so I think both sides were forced into a really unfortunate situation. We actually had a really good question from Eric earlier this week. It's in French, but in English, if Mathieu Chouanière becomes available, do you bring him back to CF Montreal and you just, to water under the bridge, you bury the hatchet, welcome to the club? What do you think?
I don't, just because I in this formation, that especially the way that the club is going now, I don't see where he would fit in unless you're looking to replace him with a Victor Lotori or a Fabian Herbers. Um, I don't. He's not a natural winger. He plays like every position, but he doesn't really have one position. He prefers to play midfield. But what mid? I don't know. It'd be complex. I think he would kind of mess everything up that they've been building over the. Elias, how do you see it? Do you think he fit naturally here in the system with the Nadal? What do you see?
Here's where my head is at. Samuel Piet is not getting any younger. He's 30 now. Nathan Saliba, and I've maintained this for a while now, is more of a Samuel Piet than he is of a Mathieu Choignard. Fabien Herbers was brought in as a depth player. Victor Latour was brought in as a promising but still a depth player. I think Mathieu Choignard not only starts, I think that he would actually be the first serious threat to Samuel Piet's position in a long time. And I think that, look at the administration that caused all the difficulties, and a lot of the people are still here. Olivier Renard, who took at least the public blame for, those talks breaking down, is no longer here. Laurent Courtois is no longer here. It's at least from the club level and the people he has direct contact with on a day-to-day basis, it's a completely blank slate. The fans still love him. I mean, it's not good to see, right? Like, there's this good Quebecois homegrown player, right? They'll never be mad at him, especially because they're aware of what the situation was and how, frankly, upsetting and ridiculous the contract offer that he was given was. And it was kind of a take it or leave it kind of situation, because that's how CF Montreal like to do their contract negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Robbie, he would have to be open to it, right? I think that, going from the MLS to Europe at his age and coming back is kind of a admission that Europe is more or less off the table.
Yeah.
But you look at people like Samuel Piet, who were here, went to Europe, came back because it didn't work out so well, and they've still managed to build a good career and B, very good standing with the national team. Where Samuel Piet is still called, I mean, not anymore, but he was perennially called up. He got minutes, he was a player, and now that, the next generation is on its way up, he doesn't see as much, but he built himself a very respectable career and is one of those very important transitional members of Canadian soccer into this new generation. So would he be open to it? Oh, that's a Mathieu Choignard question. I'm saying that it's not a complete and utter humiliation. Oh my God, my career is over if he comes back to MLS, because he will come back and his quality is it's a known thing. He will come back and he will be an excellent player. So I think if he's open to it, Montreal should do everything in their power to bring him back, because again, why wouldn't you?
I don't think he's open to it.
I don't
the
blame
way things ended, I really don't think he's open to it. I think this club messed that profile up really, really bad. That file up really, really bad, and maybe time. As they say, when you go through a bad breakup, Elias, time heals all wounds, right? So maybe with time he'll forget, or maybe with just like you said, it kind of exploring and seeing if Europe is ready for him. Then he'll come back with a different mind and focus on himself instead of what's going on outside of the club, right? So it's a wait and see game, but it's kind of concerning to see the what's going on with the Grasshopper Zurich, and we don't follow the day to day of that club either, so we don't know what's going on with their financials, with their goals, and all these things. They might be going through a whole different. Maybe Mathieu Choignard showed up to that club saying like, "Oh, what a breath of fresh air! Things are different here," and then he shows up and they're fighting relegation, and maybe we don't know. We have no idea. But anybody that does follow that club, can go ahead and help us out. Elias, I do want to mention every once in a while, I'm sorry, guys, before we get into topics, please, if you're with us now, don't forget to sign up for our Patreon. Follow us on YouTube, X, Blue Sky, all the good stuff that you guys know, because your support really helps us. And we just love, we love having our followers continue to support us. So let's get into the game. What do you say? The CF Montreal game last night. A win. A victory versus New York City FC, 1-0 at New York. Let's go ahead and look at the lineup to start. So we had Owusu, Prince Owusu, Giacomo Vrioni on top. We had a Fabian Herbert on the left, also playing kind of a left midfielder. Samuel Pietta, Nathan Saliba as midfielders. Dante Sealy on the right. Luca Petrasso as left back. Joel Waterman and Jalen Neal as center backs. David Bugai as right back. And Jonathan Sirois as your goalie. So, when you look at that lineup, what do you think? What were your first thoughts, Elias?
I was very curious as to why George Campbell wasn't in the lineup. Wasn't even on the bench. It's because he didn't travel with the team, not because he's injured. It's because there's rest. They're playing 2 weeks until like mid-June. So for the next month, they're playing 2 games a week. And rest is important. So I wouldn't be surprised to see other people maybe get some rest, including Prince Owusu. Yeah, that's for another time. But yeah, that was my main, that was a bit of a surprise, but it is a logical thing, especially when you go, you travel on the road. If it was a game at Stade Saputo, maybe you should put him on the bench, just in case of emergency. But if you're traveling, you don't want to exhaust people even more. So I get it. But besides that, I wasn't too surprised. Fabian Herbers did not have the best game last weekend, but he wasn't terrible. And I think he did that left-sided job okay, especially if you want someone to cut inside and play in that middle with the other midfielders. So yeah, besides that, I really wasn't too surprised. I'm happy that Vrioni got another start because again, with how dubious his physical fitness has been, back-to-back starts is impressive and it's important. So yeah, all in all, nothing too surprising.
For me, I when I looked at that lineup, I saw Giacomo Vrioni and Jalen Neal starting, and I was like, "Whoa, how nice would that have been in February, in opening week? To
What
have
a
that
world we
lineup,
live in.
right? Like, how nice would it have been to have those players, fully fit, ready to go in week one? Maybe we're talking about a whole different season right now. Okay, speaking of different season, okay, just a random thought like that, Elias, and I don't want to delve too
Oh
deep
no.
into it, okay, but
Random Andy thoughts. Oh, no.
random so because I was happy that CF Montreal won yesterday,
Mhm.
and then I'm scrolling through X, and then I see like, oh, thank God, at least we're not the Galaxy, and I'm like, what's going on with the Galaxy?
Oh,
And then
you
I
don't
look at this,
know?
and then I look at the score, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no. I was like, no,
Yes.
7-0,
7.
and your last place. No, I was like, this feels good right now because red. Whoa, I
Yeah.
cannot. I stopped reading the comments after like 5 minutes. Moving on. So we were talking about the CF Montreal game. So thoughts on the attack. You talked a little bit about Fabian Herbert, but we're gonna focus mostly on and including the subs, right? Because it did change a little bit when Giacomo Vrioni went out. So we had Caden Clark, and then you had Prince Owusu kind of top. What a game by Prince Owusu. Okay, because yes,
Yeah.
Giacomo Vrioni clearly is a force to be reckoned with. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say he is a force to be reckoned with. He can clearly, we've talked about it in this pod, he can clearly do it on his own. He likes to have the ball and be like, I'll figure it out from here. But Prince Owusu at the beginning had chances, and again, it seems to have been like the same thing we've been seeing from the beginning of the season. Missed opportunities. He seemed to be overthinking it, but he actually, when he scored, Elias, oh
Yeah.
my God, I don't know if you saw the same thing, but when I'm looking at TV, it just seemed like he just get, and all his teammates just kind of hugged him, like we're supporting him,
Mhm.
like beyond the celebration. They were like, "Bro, you did it." And it just felt like he just threw this weight off his shoulder, like,
Mhm.
oh, I needed this. I needed this. There was nobody in that team. I'm talking about coaching staff, players. Nobody in that team, in this squad, that needed that score more than Prince Owosu to really, really get started going. Because that from that moment he scored the goal, which is I believe in the 53rd minute, I may be wrong. It just was a different player. He was confident. He was back to what we saw in week one, where he was doing the right things outside of the box and helping out the team and other things. He was coming back from. He was back to the Owusu that we had seen. Now that doesn't mean he's going to score 7 goals in one game, but it was definitely impressive. Giacomo Vrioni, want to continue seeing him grow his fitness. I think it's important because
Yeah.
I think for a striker of his caliber, a DP, we need I think, a bigger sample size to really see what he's capable of doing. But while we're at the attack, Caden Clark, who came in as sub, I believe, you remind me again, Elias, I forgot what minute he came in, but
I think he
came
came
in
at the
later.
hour mark. I think he had about half an hour.
And I've been commenting the past few weeks that I really find it that his play has declined a lot. Now there's a lot of rumors going on of what's going on outside the club with him, but on the field, which is the ultimate test, his performance to me has declined. And yesterday, he was a mess. I'm sorry. For as much as a win and there were positive things, the one thing that stood out to me was Caden Clark's performance that was no bueno. Like it did not, it really didn't seem to click at all with this team. So what'd you think of the attack, Elias, with the subs and everything that you saw?
I think overall this is probably the best attacking game they've had this season. Um, Again, finishing is still a bit of an issue. They made their lives way more difficult than it had to be. But Patrick kind of hit the nail on the head. It was I like the way they're playing. It's not just kick and run like it was under the last two coaches. I don't think Laurent Courtois was specifically a kick and run coach. I think this season or his tenure this season was way too negative in terms of the philosophy. I don't think it was kick and run, but it definitely was a lot more negative than what we're seeing now. And this looks like a team that understands what is expected of them. If you look at again, Fabian Herbert still has some adjustments to make and some acclimatization to have. Um, but if you look at the three, right, Dante Sealy, Prince Owusu, and Giacomo Veroni, they were all on the same page. They
Mm.
were linking up, they were looking for each other. And again, there is still something to be said about a lack of conciseness. Too many touches, too many passes, especially in the shoot the damn ball. But the fact that they're actively looking for each other and then finding each other in dangerous areas makes me very happy because that means that not only are they all getting it and they're all on the same page, but they're actively working together. They're really trying to make it work. And so, you know, again, the finishing will come and all that stuff will only get better. But the fact that again, this is Verone's only his second start and he seems to be the glue that ties this entire attack together is very reassuring. Now, Vrione's physical fitness is it's tough to watch this man run. Like watching him hurts my knees, you know? Everything hurts my knees, but you know what I mean. Right? Watching him
Let's
run
talk about that.
is physically painful.
Yeah.
When he's on the ball and when he gets into those advanced positions, he's always a threat. But this is where that duality of, you have Prince who does a lot of the work in terms of the build-up play and the technical quality and a lot of the running in behind. And Vrioni's more of a poacher, find the space, and then kind of be deadly in your own way. But I'm watching Giacomo Veroni run, and it's brutal.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that the two strikers are working together and are complementing each other and also making up for one another's deficits. But Prince Wusu, man, Prince Wusu. I mean, even those who criticized him, right? I criticize him as well. Um, you can't help but be happy for him.
Yeah.
You can't help but be happy for him because, again, as much as I've said, I there are parts of his game I don't love. He's a good player. He's good at soccer. He's not an idiot and he's not shit, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that his finishing wasn't there is more of a it'll eventually get there. Just keep doing the right thing. But just I don't know why he was the lone striker, right? Now that he's got that goal and he seems to have less pressure on his shoulders, I'm like, thank God, because he really does deserve it, right?
Yeah.
He's been one of, if not the hardest worker this season. He's played in every single game. He's put, maybe not on his back, but he's, muyil mayo, right? He worked incredibly hard. And I think that if anyone deserves this kind of comeuppance and this kind of just desserts, it was absolutely him. So first of all, excellent goal, by the way, beautiful shot, but also just, any kind of good goal that's not just a rebound or a tap in really helps your confidence. I think he so needed that.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's not a flash in the pan. Hopefully he can get a goal at Stats of Puto now because I think he has more goals at Claude Robillard than he does at Stade Saputo. So uh, I'd love to see him do that at home. But yes, it was so needed, and I was so happy for him.
Yeah, and just kind of shifting because I know you mentioned that Dante Sealy and Fabian Herbers, which yes, they did kind of play the attack lies, but they're obviously their positions are so strange to me because they're yes they play winger when
It's very
they're
fluid. I love it.
when they're attacking when the defenders have the ball, but the moment that they are on defense or the ball is down low, it's a New York that's attacking. They're very much midfielders. They're supporting
Hmm.
midfielders almost at the level of Nathan Saliba and Samuel Piet. So that's why it's kind of hard to classify them whether attack or midfielders. What do you think of their overall performance of Fabian Herbert and Dante C? I know you touched on it a bit, but about the cohesiveness in general
Yeah.
that they had. But what do you think of the two of them?
I think it's gonna be very interesting when Nadi Sincha comes back. I mean, he's out 4 to 6 weeks. Marco Nadal told us, but right now, Dante Sealy on that right hand side is probably the most important attacking player that CF Montreal have
Mm,
because you don't have a 10 anymore, right? So you have your double pivot, you have your two strikers, and there's nobody else in the middle of the pitch except when Fabian Herbers tucks in to kind of help with the build up, but then he goes back out wide. Dante Sealy being so lethal one-on-one on the right-hand side, at least in the last 2 games, where he's been really borderline unplayable on his side one-on-one, forces people to come out and forces to stretch the defense. Because without him, if he's just a regular winger that does his job and then just does a lot of vertical or backwards passes and then looks for a cross here and there, the attack becomes extremely easy to defend because you just block up the middle and then there's no real other danger. The fact that he killing people on that right hand side, and he got an assist. I mean, technically he got an assist, right? It's not the most remarkable assist you'll ever see from him, but it was a good find to get a to the ball. But the fact that he's always attracting people now, the second he gets on the ball, is so important because it's going to open up space for Bugai. It's going to open up space for both strikers or the striker in the 10, depending on how Donadel lines up. I love it. I love Dante Sealy's game right now, and he's so important. So I
yeah.
hope that he sticks with it at least until Henry Sincha comes back, because then that's a very interesting discussion to have
Mhm.
on who gets first dibs on that off foot wing that so many lefties love to use.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that Marco Donadel talked about too, because it's so hard to define a Dante City position. Sometimes he plays left wing back, right wing back. Sometimes he plays right midfielder. Sometimes he plays right winger, left
Mhm.
winger. We don't know because that's the way when you talk about cohesiveness, Elias, it just seems like they switch in a second and they know what they're doing, but they seem like yesterday it just seemed like at times they were running circles around New York just because they just knew what they were doing. They're learning each other's tendencies where the other has to be. I remember one of the things that stood out to me in the last few games of Laurent Courtois' time was how much there was like, hey man, you were supposed to be there. Hey, there was a
Yeah,
lot of pointing and a lot of that.
especially on the field. Yeah.
Exactly, and it was really obvious, and I'm sure teams were seeing them like kind of that communication breakdown between all of them. And now you're just it's not to say that it's necessarily perfect, but they seem to be understanding. Marco Donadel said in a press conference, I don't have a left winger. I'm missing a left winger. But he's not, when he says it, he's not saying it like, he's not telling teams, like, by the way, I don't have a left winger. So figure, like, that's it. I'm not going to attack my left. No, I think what Marco Donadel has learned to do is instead of having one single left winger, he's just kind of learned to. That's why you see Fabian Herbert sometimes go towards that end, but kind of just put bodies there, right? Petrasso, Herbert's just kind of, you know, put bodies there to kind of make up the job of one person with two people. So it's very, 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 very interesting. I really like Fabian Herbers. I think he was a very interesting player yesterday as well. As you mentioned, Dante Sealy was also very impressive. But Fabian Herbert definitely showed that he's starting to understand what his role is. When he's most lethal, and I think I would say the same thing about Sealy, is when he starts cutting inside. When he starts
Yeah.
cutting inside, and you have the two strikers going up, you can see that the Dante Sealy, because he almost becomes like a 10. Dante Sealy, Giacomo Vrioni, Prince also kind of spread out, and you're seeing him like, okay, yesterday he made a pass to Giacomo Vrioni on the left where he, not to get too much into technicalities, but you can see that he opens up. And Patrick, he says, I like the way they are playing, not just kick and run. It was like it was under the last two coaches. Exactly. Right. It's very, very interesting style. So, um, and then yeah, so that's what I thought about. What about our double pivot? As you mentioned, we had Nathan Saliba and Samuel Piet.
Yeah.
Samuel Piet came out in the 45th in the halftime, right? And he was
Yeah.
replaced by Victor Lotori. What I saw, Elias, was they gave Samuel Piet a simple assignment, which Victor Lotori followed up on, which was get no, not Martinez. Sorry, I'm number 10
Morales.
for Morales for NYCFC. Just stick to him to
Mhm.
completely blank him out of the game. That seemed to be their sole task, both for Samuel Piet and Victor Latour. And I think they did a great job because that
Yeah.
dude was furious at the end of the game. He was mad. He could get nothing going. And the few times that maybe he had chances, that's the times that NYCFC actually had chances. Um, Nathan Saliba, one of the runs that I saw him do yesterday that I really like doing is the one. I've seen this a lot last year when he did it, and also with Hernan Losada, his first season, was when he just grabs the ball and just like a bull goes through the mid and goes all the way up and just beats out other midfielders. That's the Nathan Saliba that I've been used to seeing, and it just felt like all season he was kind of hesitant, wasn't sure if he was doing the right passes, or he was just kind of overthinking everything. But yesterday he just kind of let loose and really,
Mhm.
we saw a version of the old Nathan Saliba that's just brave, and he was. I really liked his play. I really liked his play. He was asked. Samuel Piet was also asked yesterday in their press conference. In the press conference, if he was removed because of an injury, he said no. What'd you think of this double pivot as the substitution that occurred?
Well, I mean, the substitution, it's simple. It's the same reason why George Campbell didn't even make the trip. There's a shit ton of soccer to play in the next
Mm,
coming weeks. Someone like Samuel Piet needs to rest his legs, right? Um, but yeah, marking someone like Morales completely out of the game, making him completely ineffective, even at the age of like I don't know, he's like late 30s. Patrick says he's 110. I think he's like pushing 40. I think it's about the same thing.
he's very old. He's
Um,
got white hair, man.
yeah, no, he was a silver fox out there. But I seriously think that
But he's lethal.
honestly, yeah, he's excellent, and he's one of the main priorities whenever you plan for a team like NYCFC. And so the fact that they not only did such a good job, it was such a concerted effort to make him ineffective, is what this team is doing so much better. It's not just someone like Morales, it's someone like Mukhtar or someone like Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting or a number of or Christian Benteke right throughout the season. They've done a very good job at shutting down the main threats of opposition. They get beat by committee sometimes, yeah, but
Yeah.
when you look at the real danger people, they've done a very good job, and they did this without George Campbell. They've done a very good job at making sure that the real difference makers are not making a difference, and so they did that again with Morales. This finally felt like Natal Saliba from last season.
Yeah. Yes.
Finally, and I think that it took and the thing is, there were flashes over the course of the last few games, and there were moments where he was good, and there were moments where he was a shadow of himself. Last night was the only time I got 90 minutes of Nathan Saliba as advertised. Right. And you look and the one stat that proves it, not just with some people, but also Victor Loturi, is the fact that they won 60% of the duels of the 50-50s last night. Right. And in a game like NYCFC at a field like Yankee Stadium where it's so compact and it's so difficult to maneuver, you're going to get a bajillion duels.
It's a baseball field.
There was over 150 duels last game, and they won last night, and they won and they won 60% of them. They won 59 point something percent, right? That's so important. And the thing is, it's not just winning your duels that's important, but they then translated those one duels into actively getting forward into dangerous places. So Saliba won the ball and immediately found Sealy, or he immediately found Owusu, he immediately found Vrioni. So that's the thing, right? I don't need Nathan Saliba to become, 10 goals a season and 15 assists. No, I just need him to do that perfectly. And that's why I think he's the heir to Samuel Piet, because he's a more modern version of it. He can do the work and the ball winning grunt work, and then he can also help the team get forward. And he did just that. That was a phenomenal Nathan Saliba game. at least by this season's standards, right? And that's the standard. That's the bare minimum we expected of him coming into this season because of how good he was last year. So hopefully, not just someone like Prince Owusu, but someone like Nathan Silva can take this game for what it is, which is a big boost in confidence, a big boost in quality, and take that momentum into a very packed schedule. Victor Loturi, again, I can't find a bad thing to say about this guy. He does the work. He does the work and then some. And I love the effort he puts in. He's getting better he's getting more comfortable with the ball. I'm not gonna say he's getting better with the ball. He's getting more comfortable in possession. He had this little dribble in the opponent in the New York penalty area. And I was like, is that Loturi?
Yeah.
But yeah, he was excellent. And I think again, for someone that's supposed to come in as Samuel Piet's understudy, he's doing exactly what's asked of him. So honestly, chapeau. All three of them were very good tonight, last night.
I think also something I mentioned is that Victor Lotorio, the moment he came in, you remove someone like a Samuel Piet, you don't want that level to drop. You don't want nothing to change. You want things to stay the same but improve if possible. And that's what happened yesterday. Things didn't drop after Samuel Piet left, was subbed out. It stayed the same. Morales was still covered. He was still unable to play his game, and he also, like you said, added that kind of offensive touch to his own offensive touch, right? Which was important. So let's move on with the defenders. We had Luca Petrasso, Joel Waterman, Jalen Neal, and on the right side we had David Bugay. I'm gonna tell you right now, game, there was a lot, there still is a lot of emphasis on Tom Pierce's and Tom Pierce came as a sub later on. Tom Pierce's crosses and his offensive contribution. We haven't seen much of David Bugay, but the past few weeks he's been starting or subbing in as a right back. I think David Bugay is going to be the kind of player that is going to start surprising this team, because I was so impressed with his crosses. I'm impressed with his defense, and I'm impressed with his crosses, his offensive contribution. Can he get better? 100%. Sometimes he looks a little bit misplaced, right? Jalen Neal, first start, we really got to see. Again, to me, Elias, the most important thing is that whenever somebody comes into the lineup, whether a sub, starting, whatever it is, that the level doesn't drop, that we don't say, this is what happened when Fernando Alvarez came in, right? The level dropped and it was obvious. And we said, well, it's because George Campbell is in the starting lineup, or this guy, or Joel Waterman is playing right back. It was always the reason why the level dropped. With Jalen Neal, it didn't feel like the level dropped. It didn't feel like there was a missing piece. Joel Waterman, I feel like he struggled yesterday with going up against he's Martinez, right? The one that we got lucky because he could have scored 5 goals. And well, Petrasso's Petrasso, man. I have nothing to say. I mean, the guy's just consistent. He does his job, and that's he does it well. He's done it better. He potentially, no, it wasn't even on him, but he was the only one hustling back enough to win that one-on-one with Sibra early in the game. But yeah, as Mauro said, we are so back. CF Montreal to win the MLS Cup. Jalen Neal to be the new Pope. All right.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can feel that at the 90th minute when CF Montreal wins. But now, yeah, he's looking. One year we have a Wednesday game on Wednesday, and things can change really, really fast. So, yeah. So that's what I thought about the defenders. I'm getting, like I said, very impressed with that guy. Really like Jalen Neal's first performance. Definitely want to see a larger sample size if we're going to see Elias. I think we said it during the off season, right, or close to the preseason, when we could potentially be seeing a Jalen Neal and George Campbell backfield. That it would be the possibly the future U.S. men's national team starting center backs, right? And well, again, you can take it away from there. But what were your takes on the defense for CF Montreal last night?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bugay was very strong. I think his crossing is something that we haven't seen enough of, but defensively, he's a known quantity. He's very good and he's very responsible. I want to talk about Jalen Neal. He was so calm in possession. He provides the range that Joel Waterman can, but sometimes doesn't do. And George Campbell, again, for all the positives in George Campbell's arsenal, distribution and especially like long distribution is not his strong suit. Um, Jalen Neal was a complete change up from what we were expecting from a Joel Waterman partnership. Um, it's like a textbook champagne defender where he didn't get his hands dirty at all, but he kept his side of the street completely clean. There was no major gaffes. He was clean in distribution. It was crisp. He was breaking lines. He was getting the ball out quickly, and with a lot of pace on the ball. Um, I'm starting to understand now why. Now that we saw him for more than just a 5-minute cameo, um, I'm starting to understand why he's considered one of the best, beyond a statistical standpoint, why he's considered one of the best ball playing defenders in MLS, because in possession, his range is virtually limitless. And I'm also starting to understand why Marco Donadel flirted with the idea of having him in the midfield. Because Mario said, I don't know if I'm just saying this, but I noticed on corners, he looked to give the ball to Jalen Neal in the box. He's also a tall kid.
Yep.
And they don't have any other top players on the team right now. George Campbell's not there. There's like one or two other people at most. I mean, Joel Waterman is 6 foot. The Bugai is like 5'11". Um, but and Prince Owusu and Jack Mavrioni are tall as well. But besides, it's still a pretty short team. So I think that someone like Jalen Neal, who again didn't get his hands dirty from a defensive standpoint or from like a dual standpoint, is still very good in the air. He's still 6'2" and he's still a tall kid. He's so easy on the eyes. His game is smooth. Um, at 21 years old, he's got no right to be operating with this much composure and and being this efficient. If I'm LA Galaxy and I'm looking at this and I'm kind of pissed because again,
You you lost
that's your
7-0.
center back again. Assuming he doesn't go to Europe, that's your center back for a decade.
Yeah.
And again, he needs more time before being considered in the starting conversation for the U.S. national team. But he was already called up after having not played half the season for the Galaxy. So I would not be surprised if his standing, especially for the Gold Cup, which is usually traditionally right. So there's a World Cup coming up, so maybe not as much. But traditionally, the Gold Cup gives priority to MLS players because it's smack in the middle of their season and they're in mid-season form. So I would not be surprised if both George Campbell and Jalen Neal get the call. But yeah, they're both so good. And honestly, look, Joe Waterman hasn't been bad this year, but I think he's very lucky that he's such an important player for this team. And no, luck is not the right word. But given that he is such an important player of
Yeah.
this team,
Yeah.
and given that he also signed a really big contract extension, um, it's tough to knock him off that spot because again, he has achieved now Rudy Camacho status where he is so ingrained both in the locker room but also on the field with what the coach wants out of his center backs that removing him is a huge upheaval, tactically speaking. And having a Jalen Neal and George Campbell tandem at the back is probably what's in the future, but it's not happening anytime soon because of Joel Waterman's standing. But if his performances don't pick up, because again, he's not playing poorly, but if his performances don't pick up to what the level he was at last year, where he is the guy and the general, then I wouldn't be surprised if Marco Dundell starts experimenting. Because again, Brendan Craig wasn't terrible, but he's definitely a rotation player. Fernando Alvarez has all but played himself out of a starting spot, and Jalen Neal in his 75, 80 minutes, has already shown me more than Fernando Alvarez did in 2 whole starts. So I think he's completely eclipsed Fernando Alvarez, at least for the time being. I think he's very clearly at least the third choice center back. And I think it's only going to go up. It's only going to go up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You made an extremely important point, especially when it comes to some of the other ones that are coming up, because I don't think we've ever heard this one before, Elias, but it almost seems like CF Montreal has an embarrassing fortune of center backs with prospect and potential,
Yeah, I'm not
which
complaining.
is great. But let's finish up with the goalkeeping with
Mm,
Jonathan Sirois. I liked his game. I liked his game because
yeah.
all of his phases are improving, in my opinion. Um, I think we discussed it last week. I think that the coaches have made a fantastic job in the new formation in kind of hiding his weaknesses, where he is not forced into positions of just having to kind of launch the ball and hope that somebody gets it and turn it over. Instead, they really seem to be prioritizing making sure that he gets it off the, off the back, short passes, and put more responsibility on the defenders and the defensive midfield, be it Latori or Piet, to help him get out of any kind of you know trap that they might get into. So I really like, and he had some major stops yesterday. He had
Mhm.
some major stops, those Jonathan Sirois stops that we've grown accustomed and spoiled to see from him, right? Um Shutout yesterday.
Yeah, clean sheet.
Clean sheet. So yeah, what would you think? What would you think of the
Yeah, I mean, huge save on the Morales breakaway. Again, Morales did terribly and should have done better, but he
horrible?
picked the
Jesus.
perfect time to step out. He picked the perfect time to commit to the challenge. He got the ball. He didn't give away a penalty as well, which is again easier said than done when you have a striker that's maybe about to go around you. But yeah, this is one of those uh kept his nose completely clean sheet and made a couple nice saves. Yeah, Robbie, 100%. This is one of those where he kept his nose clean the entire game, didn't put himself in any difficult positions. And again, if this is your way of trying to get back in the national team picture, baby steps, I guess. I think
Yeah.
Dane Sinclair, Maxime Crepeau are well ahead, even James Matemas at this point because of the work he's doing in Portland. Um, are still ahead of him, but baby steps, man, baby steps, and you'll catch an eye, and then you'll get invited to the camp, and it's progression, right? But yeah, you know what? A solid day at the office for him. I think he's very happy with it too.
Yeah. Patrick White says Sirois will be an excellent number two. I don't
Well, he,
know.
he's a half. He's a solid number one, so obviously he'd be an excellent number two.
For the Canada men's national team, but for CF Montreal or for a national team, I think for CF Montreal, I think he's making a case for himself. Um, what's next for CF Montreal? So we got the Wednesday game against Columbus
Yeah,
at home, short week, coming off our first win of the season. How important is this game?
this is Columbus, man.
Yeah,
Look, they also have a very busy schedule. They just played. I forget who they just played.
Philadelphia yesterday.
They played Philly. It was a brutal game. Then they have last place Montreal, and then they have Hell is Real right afterwards. Right? They've got FC Cincinnati right afterwards. So this is a huge week for them, and I think Montreal is probably that little oasis of rest in between two monstrous games. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a rotation, pretty significant rotation in the lineup from what we've played in LC. That being said, and like Robbie put it, we lose Wednesday, we win Saturday. Saturday is Canadian Classic in Montreal this time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Marco Donadel also rotate the squad a little bit, or at least, you know, give the starters, or at least the starters that have logged heavy minutes this year, a shortened game. Or maybe they come off the bench, or maybe they're out at 45 or 60 minutes. Um, I can definitely see both teams not fielding their strongest 11. What's next? I think that now you have to start managing your team because you want to be hitting this stride before you hit the shit and you're playing every 3 days, not while you're hitting the shit. So I think, they picked a very weird time to pick up a win and maybe generate some momentum. But a win against Columbus is a huge step forward when you're playing against Toronto, which again is an also winnable game. And all of a sudden, you've won 3 games in a row, and it's
What?
officially
That's insane,
right.
Elias.
So all of a sudden, you win against Columbus, and you put yourself in a good position to win against Toronto. who again, you beat their B team. Congratulations. You beat their
Yeah.
A team. Then all of a sudden, 3 in a row is a big thing. If we know Patrick saying if we know anything about NLC, is that his teams play the same way no matter who's on the field. Yeah, and they always
That's
win
true.
by committee, right? But there is a gulf in quality no matter what. And who knows, maybe last he'll show up. But I seriously think that both teams will probably, if not rotate significantly, will at least rotate some very important players. I like maybe Prince Owusu won't start because again he's played a shit ton. Maybe Jack Morvioni won't start because he still doesn't have 90 minutes in his legs. But I think ultimately what happens is all eyes are on Saturday. I think, and winning against Columbus on Wednesday is just gravy, or getting even a point against Columbus is just gravy.
Yeah.
Just keep the unbeaten streak going.
Exactly. I mean, at this point, it feels like every game is a must win, or almost like a must tie. Just don't lose because you need them. You need them, and the
Yeah,
month is heavy. But like you said, if there's 3 wins in a row, we are, man. Next podcast, Elias, we are in a different, headspace completely, because it's 3 wins against a very important team, and doing the climb back. Um, Tom McMillan had asked us a question about
yes,
Giacomo Vrioni. Um, he said, "Will Vrioni ever play a full 90 minutes?" I believe he's getting it. Yes, I know, Elias, you mentioned a little bit earlier that he's, maybe, it's painful to see him run, but I do feel like he might be 1 or 2 games away from, again, knock on wood, nothing happens, any setbacks to his injury. Looks like he's getting pretty close to having that extra gas tank, if you want, of energy to maybe finish the whole game. Do you see it that way? Do you see it like much further away than me? How?
yeah, I see it way further away than you because
Okay.
again, you got to remember that they have midweek games going all the way until the end of May. And then you get a pretty sizable international break in between
Mm.
after that, right? In June. Um, I would not be surprised if he doesn't play 90 minutes in any of these because, again, someone who's just coming back from injury, who's not physically 100% perfect, and you have a lot of rotation and a lot of games, he already can't play 90 minutes.
Yeah,
You can't ask him to play 90 minutes, then ask him to play again 60 minutes in 3 days. That's not happening.
you're gonna lose
That's
him
also not fair to
constantly.
him. So
Yeah.
Marl saying he'd do it on Saturday. Maybe he could do it on Saturday if that's what's needed of him. But I again don't hold your breath if he plays 90 and expect him to play 90 minutes. It probably won't happen until mid to late June.
All right. So thank you, Tom, for asking that question. Guys, don't forget to ask us any question in the chat. We are here live, so we're here to answer all your questions. Lies, we'll move on to Rose FC,
Let's
which
do it.
last week was the more exciting part of the show. This time around, it's not a loss. We're not talking about a loss, but to me,
Feels
because
like
I
a
was at the
loss.
game, it felt like a loss. It felt like Roses FC left some points in the table, Elias.
Mhm.
Um, I was at the game yesterday. I went to Stade Boreal. You were there last week. I was there this week. It wasn't sold out. There were a lot of empty seats, as you can probably see in the you could probably see in the TV, which is not a bad thing. I mean, again, it's everybody gets excited for the first home game and all that, but the vibe of the people, the vibe that you feel of, everybody wearing gear, everybody wearing you see Roses FC everywhere, and everyone's excited about this new thing. And there's a lot of girls, that are there, young girls that are there, probably, with their local soccer team and all that. That they're also looking at this professional team and saying, hey, like, we could go there, continue doing this, which is really, really nice to see. I really like, how familiar it all felt. I
Yeah.
actually, Elias, we had Marinette Pichon on the
Mhm.
show, and I actually got to see her live. She's super kind, super nicest lady ever. That, we she was in her little box. I don't even know what to call it. Now, Elias, I know that this stadium, Stade Boreal, is temporary. It's temporary. They said they were going to work on different solutions. They're going to see. But for now, this is what they're offering us, right? So it's not fair for me to say criticize anything that's being done in this, the way it's done in this stadium, because it's not going to be their permanent home. I think they did a very, very nice job of temporarily adapting it with the decorations. It looks feels very much like a home game for Roses FC with everything that's around it. Now I got, and again, I'm not complaining about it. I'm just kind of setting expectations for anybody that maybe wants does the same thing as me, which is just, I want to get maybe some cheap tickets and go have a seat. And so what I did is I got my seats, and I was sitting behind one of the goals because the other goal doesn't have any seats. And the only thing, and this was something that I overheard people also saying in the crowd, was that there's a poto right in front of you that is holding up the nets, and
Okay.
it kind of disconnects the fans with the field. Now I don't know
Mhm.
anything. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an architecture. I don't know how much it would impact the Roses FC to remove those nets and to remove that poto, because it does it creates kind of what we've spoken about in this show about Stats Puro, and how it feels that it's it feels that you're very connected to the players and you're connected to the team, as opposed to this. You have this huge net that it's hard to see sometimes, and the potos get in the way sometimes. So I had to do this constant, like this, like from side to side, move from side to side, hoping to avoid the poto. But overall, I'm just talking about being in the stadium. We haven't even gotten to the game yet, but it was a very, very nice experience in that sense. A lot of excited people about the project and all that. But the only thing that got to me was that net thing. But again, you pay the cheap price. You have to kind of set the expectations that it might not be the best view, right? It's not a Stats Puro, but I've gotten cheaper tickets at Stats Puro for a better view than what it was yesterday. But again, this is not their permanent stadium. I understand that, and they're probably going to work on something much better later on. But I enjoyed that. Enjoyed that a lot. Enjoyed that experience. Stade Boreal was very interesting. Their gear is freaking awesome. Yeah, a great first time experience. Maybe next time I'll pay those extra bucks just to kind of get a better seat on the side there. But just wanted to set that expectation for anybody that's looking to go to a game. Awesome experience.
Yeah, no, it's a nice stadium. It's a nice ground. I don't think they're gonna remove the netting just because it's very close and there's a safety hazard.
Yeah, I figured,
Um,
huh? It must have something to
it's
do with
closer to
that.
Statsapuro, right? Because Statsapuro is also elevated. So if
Yeah.
they elevate the bleachers, then maybe. But I don't think they're gonna remove the netting anytime soon.
So I know we're talking about Roses FC, Elias, but Mauro did ask a question, so we're just gonna take 2 seconds, okay? He said,
Yeah,
"Where's Guboglu?" I don't know if I missed the part you talked about. We did not talk about
no,
Guboglu and the fact that he didn't play. We didn't talk
he's
about
learning. I mean,
anybody.
he's learning a new position, right?
Yeah,
He was a right wing back. There's no more right wing back. He tried winger. He did not look that good. Right back, he looked a little bit lost, but definitely a lot better than than as a winger. Um, right now, I think he's David Bugai's replacement. Um, when they don't try to use a center back to invert him. So I think there's still a lot of learning. It's important to remember he's 18 years old, right?
yeah.
So he did very well at right wing back. He was very strong, but now he has to learn how to live with a new system and one that doesn't necessarily suit him. So it's a good learning curve for him.
It's gonna be important to see what happens with him from here to the end of the season. Hope maybe in the
Exactly.
Leagues Cup he'll be giving a few more minutes. But yeah, you spent your whole time at the academy learning one position. Then all of a sudden you make it to first team, and whoop, throw everything out the window. You gotta go back to square one, right? So if you can go ahead and pull up the lineup for the Roses FC game versus Halifax Tides FC, which ended up being a 0-0 tie. We had Lambert in goalie. We had Whitaker as right back, Elias and Capadona as center backs, Jody Smith as left back, sorry, Abdul as right midfielder, Bibo and Bouchard as midfielders, Megan Sauvé as a left midfielder, Boychuk and Paquin as strikers. Now I saw Abdul play more up front, more as the 9, but again, it could have changed along the game. What was your reaction? Because again, this is, I want to say, the 5th game now of the Rose FC. If I'm
Yeah.
not dating myself too well, we're starting to get an idea, Elias, of what this team is about. We're starting to get like what we're gonna, what they're gonna bring to us. So what do you think of the lineup when you saw it?
I was a bit surprised about Ali Hess not starting. She's been excellent, but I understand, at some point other people need to get a start, either just to look at them or to also rotate the squad. You play double pivot in a 4-4-2. There's a lot of running that comes with it. So I wasn't surprised. Um, and yeah, same thing, right? Especially with someone like Gabriel Lambert. She's experienced, and I think she's 30 years old, and she's been around. Someone like Anna Karpenko is still quite young. I think she's like, I don't know what, I think she's like early 20s.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, there is no set starter right now. Um, Again, that goal against Ottawa where she was caught off and she was wrong-footed did not look great. So I understand that maybe Robert Rosatoyo is trying to just consider his options. So I wasn't too surprised. I'm not surprised at the top four, the front four. If you look at Sauvé Paquin, Abdul, and Boychuk, all starting together, I was not surprised about that. And the back four has been excellent this year. So that either.
Mhm.
Um, really the only surprise is Elias not starting. But again, that happens when you're trying to just start a season and also switch things up a little bit.
Yeah, well, similar here. Like I was a little surprised that they would mess with the midfield that had been working so well, um, and the goalkeeping too. I mean, I understand that you're going with maybe the more veteran goalkeeper. I think I also understand that the reality is that they're 4-0. Well, they were 4-0 yesterday, and I mean they still haven't lost the game, but they probably felt that playing at home they could take a little bit more of a risk to see more of their players, say some of the players that they haven't seen yet, get that starting minutes and
Especially
see
last place.
exactly. And because Halifax is almost, you see their record, and well, I haven't seen them play, but you start thinking, well, maybe we can be a little risky. But Elias, as you know, and this happens in every sport, in any level of soccer, that when you take these kind of risks, when you take these kind of do these kind of changes, it can backfire. It can backfire in many ways. You can lose, or you can, and that's something that we kind of saw yesterday. We're gonna start with the goalkeeping because I know we started with CF Montreal with the attack. So we had Lambert coming in at her first game. Based on what I saw, I actually saw it really close because she was on my side.
Mhm.
Um, I did talk about the other goalkeeping being kind of like a fire, firecracker, kind of a little bit everywhere. You said she was a little bit misplaced, but I think she also played really well, Koprenko. But the only thing is that with Lambert, it looks like the way the coach likes their goalkeepers to play is really outside the box and to join the
Mhm.
center backs. That's again kind of learning over time what we're going to see from this team. But Lambert clearly is the kind of goalkeeper that likes to stay back and be conservative. Is
Yeah.
it like it likes to because it's sometimes hard to see if it was on the center back or the goalie, but there seemed to be several times during the game that there was miscommunications in the back passes between center backs and the goalkeeper. Again, not sure if the goalkeeper is used to it or not, but it was kind of a at times doubtful performances. So you kind of said, is this on the goalkeeper? Is it on the back? So she did have, I believe, one or two stops that were actually really, really incredible stops. Besides that, Halifax missed some incredible shots. But what'd you think of Lambert's start with Roses FC?
Halifax came into the game kind of negative, so I'm not too surprised that they were playing a little bit more conservative. They had a little block set up, and you look to hit back on the counter. And again, she was questioned a lot of times, maybe nothing too crazy. Um, and I think she answered all of them. I think that she did her job. And when you're a goalkeeper, especially when you're a goalkeeper, not expecting to be super busy the entire game, the very least you could do is exactly your job. And she did that. So I think honestly, I didn't have too many thoughts on her game because again, sometimes when you're the goalie, you don't stand out. That's a good thing. So yeah, she was definitely there. She kept a clean sheet, which is always nice. And she was sure-handed. And that's exactly what you want. You want that stability and that solidity at the back that, there's no nonsense and there's no kind of moments. So yeah, I'm totally cool with her game.
All right. And then on defense, we're gonna move on to defense where honestly, when I was watching the game yesterday, I felt like I don't know. I'm starting to see a kind of weakness in Rose FC in their defense. I mean, and they're not the worst. They're not terrible, but they were very vulnerable yesterday, Elias, in the game against Halifax. And Halifax again, Not a team that has a winning record or that's known for the attack per se. But again, I haven't seen them play Halifax to say exactly what kind of team they are. But their record speaks for itself, right? They haven't won a game, so um, yeah, it just I felt like the defense, was not necessarily the strength of the team yesterday. They were very vulnerable, and I think they made Lambert work a little bit harder. I'm talking defensively. Offensively, I think they did contribute. I like the passes that they made. Um, but yeah, I felt like they struggled a lot against Halifax, and Halifax had no issues pressing really high up the field on the defense, and the defense kind of cut themselves in positions that were not necessarily beneficial to be able to build anything, which completely threw Roses FC out of their game. I don't know. I want to say that I saw Toronto playing that kind of high. No, sorry, Ottawa playing that had kind of high press on Roses, and Roses seemed to kind of adapt well to that high press, but they really don't feel like they did well against Halifax yesterday. How'd you feel about their defense yesterday?
They're so good going forward, especially Haley Whitaker and
Whitaker
Jody
is
Smith.
incredible. Yeah,
Both of them getting forward with or without the ball are so important, because then it lets the wide players like Abdu or Boychuk or Sovi get into the middle of the pitch. Um, they leave a lot of space at the back. They leave a lot of space at the back. It happened against Ottawa where they got countered from the flanks, and the goal itself came from the middle, but almost all the offense and almost all the attack, especially in the counter that Ottawa found, kind of like Halifax, was from the wide areas. So if Montreal is okay with saying, yeah, you know what, you might get some joy on the wings, especially when you're going forward, but we're gonna absolutely murder you on the way back when we have, overlapping runs from both fullbacks and both wingers on the ball are lethal. If that's the trade-off you want to make, I get it. But the thing is, you have to have the mobility in the midfield and at central defense to compensate for that. And without someone like Elias, who can cover everything at once and who's, you know, she covers so much ground and she breaks down so many attacks before they even start. If you don't have her on the pitch, you are at a disadvantage. So I think that that's the next real tactical conundrum that Robert Rosatoyu has to grapple with. I think that when you have two fullbacks that are as good getting forward as Whitaker and Smith, you don't shackle them. You let them run free. You let them get forward. You let them get in advanced positions because on the ball they're excellent. They overlap. They're quick. They have a good eye for goal. They cross like everything you want out of an attacking fullback. They both have it. So it makes no sense to kind of limit yourself. But now you have to find a way to make sure that doesn't bite you in the ass on the other way. So I think that that's his next really big decision to make tactically. I'm very curious to see if he makes any adjustments for next week because again, it looks good, but there's definitely danger there.
yeah, and I think as the weeks pass by, teams are starting to look at Rules FC just like we are, Elias, and they're starting to say, okay, this is what they like to do. This is what this player does. This
Mhm.
is what that they're starting to learn, and this is where the job gets even harder for the coach, for Robert, because how do you change? Like, how do you
Yeah.
make it different from what was last week? Because that's what it looked like Halifax did. They just seem to have watched tape on Roses FC and said, we can do this. They're weak in this end. Because you're absolutely right. Whitaker had a hell of a game offensively. Her one-on-ones are
Yeah, she's very good.
incredible. She's incredibly well, and she creates opportunities. But then there's the counterattack. There's that going back. And like you said, they just seem to put a lot of responsibility on the center backs that stayed back. And that's something that, again, got very lucky that Lombard was capable of covering most of those goals, and also some of the shots that Halifax did were terrible. Sorry, they were terrible misses. Um, but yeah, absolutely. Jody Smith left in the halftime. When they took Whitaker out in the 84th minute, I heard in the crowd they were like, "Why do you take her out? Why do you take Whitaker out? You're trying to score a goal. She's been the one that's been probably performing the best in the whole
Yeah.
game. Why are you taking her out?" To me, there were some question because they also took out Boychuk. I want to say in the give me a
Towards the end of the
second.
game.
Yeah, like the 78th minute, close to and you're thinking, but you want to score here. You're at home, but they took him out. Do you think the coach kind of like said, you know what? We're good. Like, let's just park the bus here and settle for the tie.
No, you want to switch things up. Every attacker can't be mandatorily they have to stay on. Sometimes, if they've been playing 90 minutes since every game since the start of the season, maybe they get a rest, right? Especially if you're a fullback who just runs nonstop, and like someone like Haley Whitaker and Jody Smith also, right? Who they run, they don't stop running, and that's one of the things we love about the Roses is the level that they could play at for 90 minutes. No other team in the league can.
Mm.
And it started
But
to
they're
show towards
catching
the end of
up.
the game.
But they're catching up, huh? The other
Yeah, they
teams.
will.
Yeah.
Once the other teams get their legs back, yes. But the thing is, like, it showed again towards the end of the game. Halifax just had no more legs, and Montreal kept on coming and coming and coming and attacking, and that's going to keep on happening because again, just because other teams are getting the legs back doesn't mean Montreal is going to stop with their level. So then they just have to learn how to take it up a notch. I was surprised when Boychuk got subbed out. I was not surprised when Whitaker got subbed out because again, yeah, she was one of the most positive players on the team, but she's a fullback. She does so much running. Let the girl breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
Boychuk was a bit more of a surprise, but again, she also because again, Abdul kind of switched up front, and then she ended up playing out wide, and then vice versa. Tanya Boychuk runs so much, right? They keep Abdul up high and wide to kind of detract and occupy opposing fullbacks. So that means that Tanya Boychuk has to do the running for a lot of that side when she's over there. So I get it. She did a lot of running last game again. She did a lot of running the week before. Sometimes players just need to rest, even if they are physically, from a fitness perspective, superior to most teams. Doesn't mean they're superhuman. They still need to rest. So I mean, I was a little surprised when Boychuk came off, but also, you know what? I don't think that's why they ended up not getting the win.
Yeah, no, and definitely not Boychuk's fault. I mean, she's an incredible player. I thought she had an off game. We're gonna get to the attack. I just want to talk about the midfield too, where you like you said, we're used to seeing Elias start with Bibo. I like Bibo's game. I got to see it live in person, and I absolutely she can
Isn't it great?
absolutely dominate the midfield because her passes when you see it, especially from an angle, they are to me, Elias, the Bibo passes are elite.
Yeah,
They're
Charlie
elite.
Bull is incredible.
She reads the game. She knows exactly where to place it to someone that like Abdul that likes the ball in front of her and likes to run for it. It was I really liked her game. Now again, one of the things that maybe could have done better was the dynamic between the two midfielders, right? Because it's something that yes, you have the excellent Bibo passes, but Halifax was also playing very tight on midfield and very tight on defense. That they really needed help breaking the line. So I think they struggled in that and in finding being creative. Elias, I thought that there was a lack of creativity besides Bibo. There was nobody else. Once you shut off Bibo, you're pretty much shutting off the midfield. Yeah, I just it felt like there wasn't, and then they tried to make some substitutions too to maybe see if that could, help out a little bit, but didn't end up doing much. You had Ali has come in the 61st minute. When she came in, she went straight to Bibo, and they seem to be like talking like let's get started, let's do this because they know each other's game. But nothing really happened, and nothing really changed. And again, it might have to do with Halifax playing, just kind of learning their game and starting to really learn what Roses are looking for and what they can do to stop it. What do you think of the midfield play?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We kind of talked about it before the show. There's no creative player, right? Charlie Bull has an incredible class and has borderline limitless passing range. She can pick out any player on the field and find them comfortably. And Ali Hess does a phenomenal job from a physical perspective and just covers so much ground. But when it comes to that final pass, when it comes to somebody that can get into the middle of the pitch, and the second they're on the ball, pick out at the right time, the right player, in the right spot, they don't have that. right? They've got 4 forwards right now. And, it's very clear that those forwards, Bakin Sauvé, Boychuk, and Abdou, are your four. And they all operate at a very high level, and they're all quick, and they all love getting forward, and it's a very attractive football, and they're all, they can finish, they can dribble, they can run, but there's no player out there that is a purely creative force, right? Abdou can dribble people like it's nothing, and Boychuk is a pit bull, but um they need that touch of composure, right? Someone like Charlotte Bilbao, but further up the field. Charlotte Bilbao is your pivot. She's your metronome, and she's not going to get that far up the pitch because, again, at the end of the day, she's also 34 years old. She can't be running up and down like that, and then also, logging Mathieu Chouanière, metrics here. It's not reasonable.
Mhm.
When you play in a double pivot, you sacrifice a lot of space in the middle. So you need to have one of your two strikers that are able to drop in and be that creative, that liaison that links up with the midfield. And they don't have that. Because even if it is Abdou that was playing up top, she's technically excellent, but it's a very one-dimensional kind of technical quality, right? She can pick the ball up, turn, and then dribble somebody and shoot. But, picking out the pass is not her strong suit. And they don't have anyone in that front four that can do that. So that is the real thing holding this team back, is the fact that they don't have someone. And it happened last week. Sorry, it happened this weekend, and it happened last week. Both games at Stade Boreal, where they had the lion's share of the possession, and they didn't have to do any defense, or not nearly as much defending as they did in the first 2 games on the road. They would have players that turn in the middle, have acres of space in front of them, and then they cannot get the final ball in. And you have wingers, you had Sauvé, and you had Abdou begging for the ball. That were in advanced spots that had beat their defenders. You just have to slide the ball in, and you've made your pass, and it's a goal. And they just don't have that player. So until they either find that player or recalibrate the way that they attack to kind of make up for it, they're going to be limited going forward. And what they did was they ran into a very well organized Halifax defense. And every team that sees them know that when they go to Montreal, all you have to do is stay solid at the back. You keep everything to the outside, and you'll be okay. It won't be that dangerous because, again, they don't have someone that can create a ball out of nothing up front. And Charlotte Bilbao, until they find someone to replace Charlotte Bilbao as a pivot, they won't have Charlotte Bilbao up the field to worry about. Charlotte Bilbao can do it. Bilbao is more than quality enough to play that final ball. But then you need to find a partner for Elias.
Yeah.
And until they do that, so then it creates its own set of problems. And I think that, that is, again, we talked about the fullbacks being so far up the pitch, being Robert Rosatoyu's big challenge. This is his other big one. There's two things now. It's a creative midfielder in an advanced position, the final third, and it's making up for how attacking your fullbacks are. Those are your two things, and this team is as close to perfect as you can get for a new team.
Well, I mean, they also have to be a little bit flexible because if we start looking at the attack, you're absolutely right. The top four, we're starting to get an idea as to what they're going to look like. And I feel like the past 4 games, they've kind of gotten away with how good their crossing has been and how good, how good they've been at putting the ball in the box and just getting somebody to kick it or head it or get it in. We even had some banger shots from the middle, which Abdou tried again yesterday. But when I look at the Halifax game, I see that a lot of the play, Halifax seemed to really defend outside the box and
Yeah.
really annihilate Montreal's chances of crossing. And without the ability to cross, Montreal was almost like, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Which goes back to the creative midfielder, right? Because you need to have that second, third, fourth option if something's not working. And yesterday, Halifax just decided to defend the crosses, really try to, you know, annihilate anybody that was trying to cross the ball. Which Boychuk has fantastic crosses, and so does Whitaker, but they try to really not allow them to cross the ball, and they were out of answers. And I'm sorry, as fantastic as the forwards have been the past few weeks, I just felt like yesterday they kind of got quiet. They didn't really do much. They weren't creative. They didn't really um create much. Yes, there were maybe one-on-one battles that were good, that did well, but once they got into the box and they had to
Mhm.
face that Halifax defense, they just didn't know what to do. And that's a problem. Maybe that's why they took out Boychuk, because also they needed some, maybe another dynamic and all that, somebody else with a different kind of set. Because I know that they put Claire Monyard as well to
Mhm.
replace Megan Sauvé, and Laurie Thibault to also. So maybe some, just kind of, again, we go back to the, the position they are at the table, and that they've won all those games, that they can kind of afford to maybe take some risk with other players that we haven't seen that much, right? Or taking out star players, as I said. What do you think of the attacking when you saw it?
Just that, when you don't have any options in the middle, you become one dimensional. Same way as you don't have any options out wide, you become one dimensional, and you make it much easier to prepare for you. I'm not saying you know it's easy to defend Montreal now, because it's definitely not. There's still a lot of quality in the players that are actually out there. But when it comes to defending as a unit, you make their job much simpler, because again, if we close down the middle, they'll be forced out wide and they'll be forced to cross it, and that's all you have to defend, because they don't have any or the creative forces they do have there are not enough to really hurt you in a sustainable way. That's pretty much it, right? You start to work on that side, and then honestly, I believe, again, like I said, they'll be as complete as possible. They need they need a 10, or they need one of the strikers to really work and develop this ability to find that final ball. And again, that could also come with familiarity, right? They've only played, this is their fourth game together.
Fifth.
You also have to cut them some slack. But that is what's next on the checklist. Absolutely. At least going forward, is that creativity in the middle, because too many times now you have forwards in advanced positions, in good positions, and they don't get the ball because that delivery is not there. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, and that kind of leads me to my last question here. So what's next for Roses FC? I mean, they haven't lost. They just tied. Again, it's not a loss,
Right.
but there's a lot of questions that I'm asking myself in my mind after that game, where I'm not necessarily satisfied with them having had only 1 point and leaving 2 points on the table that should have been theirs. Um, what's next? What do you think should be done next for Rose FC?
What's next is those two things we talked about, right? It's figuring out how to give your fullbacks the freedom without compromising your wide defense and stretching your defense all out of whack, and it's getting creative and strong distributors in the middle of the field in the final third, right? Um, or you find a replacement for Charlotte Bibo and let her play at the 10. But I
Yeah.
think that until they find a creative outlet in the middle, they're going to stay not easy to defend again, because they're very good, but straightforward to defend.
Yeah, and that's what I think too. I think they need to maybe mix up, try different pieces. Don't become the team that everybody that around the league says, oh well, for Rose FC, that's all you had. That's the only way you have to defend. Is this, you take out this factor and they have nothing else. You can't be that team. You got to be, you have to have more tools, right? More,
Mhm.
that you kind of, and that's going to be on the coach too, to kind of find a solution when something isn't working, right? So it'll
Yep.
come with time. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see how much this team continues to develop over the season, because as far as product goes, Elias, I really like the kind of football that they're playing on the field. I
Yeah,
think that
no,
that
it's
they're
good, it's fun, it's entertaining football.
it's very
So,
entertaining. Again, I know I complained a little bit about the stadium a little earlier, but also said that it was a fantastic environment. But you get what you paid for, in the sense of you get very entertaining football in the field. This team is disciplined. They're aggressive. They're risky. They're very much the kind of team that doesn't take any, no for an answer. They can really play, and you really like, they bring that attitude that, as a fan watching the game, you're like, that's my team.
yeah.
That's who I want to fight for, because they're really in your face about it. So really excited to see what's going to come up next week. We got a lot of stuff coming up, Elias. We
Yeah.
got the Columbus
Very busy
game. We
week.
got Rose FC that's also playing on the next week as well
In
against
Calgary.
Calgary. Yeah, they're not playing in Montreal, right? So they're playing over there.
No, it's on the road.
So a lot of exciting stuff. Like you said, Toronto, a lot of soccer. which is what we love to see, right? And hopefully no Monday news, right, Elias, that we always get from CF Montreal. But anyways, thank you to everyone who joined us today. We really hope you enjoyed tonight's show. As always, the podcast will always be free to listen and watch on all of our platforms. Make sure to check out our Patreon page for exclusive member content and all of our social media platform for more content. Big shout out to all of you who joined the Patreon this week. And thank you again to all of you who tuned in tonight. And see you next week for episode 226 of The Ball is Round.
Happy Mother's Day.